Yes, guys, and a welcome from me. This is Championship Manager 0102. Time for a player profile time on someone that I thought I'd done. I realised I hadn't. Of course, the one, the only, Patrick Vieira. What a fucking machine he is in CM 0102, and I think that's where we'll start with. He really is a dog's bollocks. Now, take into account here, guys, I fired up a game 10 seasons in so we can get a bit of a perspective of how Vieira performs. But I think in most games, most people say he is a fucking rock. He really is. Bear in mind here, he is 35 now. So, you know, in 3 starts, 2 subs for Lazio, 6-6-0. But he still looks a fucking mean machine, don't he? Look at that. He still looks really insane. So let's have a look now then. Let's go back to when I first started this game with Arsenal. So he looks like he moved at the very start to Barcelona. And just look how consistent he is. 50 games, 756. He really is. I mean, he's a real assist machine. Look at 0405. 21 assists. Absolutely phenomenal. We'll have a look at his injury record of 10 years in a minute. And I would imagine that's not too bad either. Same with disciplinary. Who knows about that? And even at Lazio, which was what? 4 years ago at the age of 31, still performed 807 at 42 games, still performed last season at 34. You know, you cannot grumble. And he still looks, like I say, he looks really strong there, but he's ridiculously strong when he first starts. In terms of his injury prone, it says 5 on there, now that could vary. So let's have a look. Look at that. That's 10 years of CM, and he's got 6 injuries. Only one of them was remotely serious, which was 2 months back in 04, but yeah, I think he's had a very good career in this particular save, hasn't he? In terms of bans, well, we know that he can be a bit of a hothead, that's for sure. So, one there, 3. To be honest with you, 3 red cards in 10 years isn't bad. Isn't bad at all. I think that's how I read that anyway. I've got a feeling it's more than 3 reds, because I think, I don't know. What do you think? Who cares? But it's very difficult to get him unless you are Barcelona and you're buying from Arsenal in season 1. That is quite a common. That's quite a common signing. Transaction, shall I say? Personally, I think 35 million is a good deal. It's a very, very good deal, and there aren't many players that I put in the same category as Vieira. There's probably one, and that's probably Roy Keane. You know, and we'll talk about Roy Keane and Vieira in a moment. But, you know, he will, depending on what formation you have, on most of my formations, I have something like this. And, you know, right in that holding role is where you want him in sort of any formation. I think if you don't play the holding role, if you're not going to play the holding role, then if you're playing 4-4-2, then you probably need to have him roughly around here where 28 is. Something like that. I think realistically though, that is where he needs to be, because he really is. You know, he really is an absolute monster. I'd say he's a monster wherever he plays, because I'll show you something, right. Something else that you can do. Look at his finishing. He's got a good finishing, and I spoke with Gary Johnson about this ages ago. I think it was Gary Johnson anyway, about playing defensive midfielders out of position to suit their attributes, which I totally agree with. He could theoretically play a lot further forward. Certainly, you put him on long shots, but I mean, he really is the dog's bollocks. I think I'd probably say he's probably better than Keane. Let's talk about Vieira in real life now. Of course, there was one massive rivalry he had, and that's of course with Roy Keane. So much, although every time I watch any stuff to do with it, it's always Roy Keane getting the better. Very similar players. What's that word I want to use? Combative midfielders. You know, I think you need it, didn't you? In most teams needed it. Man U had Keane. Man United had Keane. Arsenal had Vieira. I don't think anyone had anything sort of. I don't put Gerrard in that same category because he was more attacking. Chelsea. Do you remember Gus Poyet? They had it. Who else? I'm trying to think of Edgar Davids. Edgar Davids was really combative. Gattuso's a good example. I think Gattuso was a mean bastard, and so on and so on. So, Patrick Vieira started out as a youth career in 1984 for FC Trappist. the youth career, the only reason I pay attention to youth careers is because I like to see if they actually got a contract with them or if they were let go or whatever. But his youth career was a little bit weird, really, because he had a 2-year youth career with Trappist. He then had a 5-year youth career with FC Droas, and then went to Tours, which was another French team, which again was another youth setup. In 1993, he got his first professional contract, which was with Cannes in France, and he was there 93 to 95. Now, this was bizarre because in 1995 he got a move to AC Milan, still very, very young, of course. Born in 76, of course, so he was 19 and he got a move to AC Milan. What a time to get a move to AC Milan. Didn't quite work out for him, though, because he was at Milan only for a year with only 2 games. And then, of course, the Arsene Wenger took over at Arsenal and brought him to Arsenal. And, you know, the rest is history in terms of Arsenal. He was at Arsenal from 06 right through till 2005, where he accumulated one shy of 280 games with 29 goals. After leaving Arsenal, you know, I mean, he left Arsenal in 05, so it was strange, really, because for me, he still had a good 3 years in him at least, and he was 29. I didn't really quite grasp it, to be honest with you. He left Arsenal in 05. He was still only 29, and he had a season at Juventus. Juventus, he had a season with 31 games. In 06, remember, he's still only 30 years of age. In 06, he had a 4-year stint at Inter Milan. 67 games, 6 more goals. So, I still feel he could have done another job at Arsenal, personally. 2010, the twilight of his career, he had a season at Manchester City, of course. 28 games and 3 goals, and that was the end. In 2011 was where he hung up his boots. Played for the French under-21s and was one of very few players for France that accumulated 100 plus caps for his nation from 97 right through till 2009. So, managerial career. Well, this is interesting, really, because in 2013, he was Manchester City. I think it was youth, weren't it? It was something to do with youth. I wrote this down, EDS, but it's something to do with youth. 2016, at New York City. 2020, Nice. 2021 to 2023, Crystal Palace, which I don't think he actually did too bad at Palace, to be honest with you. I think it was harsh. It was harsh when he went. And in 2023, I believe he's still present at the moment here, is at Strasbourg. He is deemed the head coach, manager, whatever you want to call it. So, I still think he's got, you know, I would like to see him have another bash in the Premier League. I think he weren't really fairly judged in the Premier League. I have a lot of criticism about certain managers getting jobs time and time again. Certain ex-players getting chances after chances. No names, Lampard. But I would like to see him get another stab. And that is the one, the only, the great Patrick Vieira. If you want anybody doing, let me know. Till next time, take it easy.